In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
But I do ask every publisher, every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present danger, the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security. Today, no war has been declared, and however fierce the struggle may be, it may never be declared in the traditional fashion. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger, and yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent.
It's time to recognize that we've come to a turning point. We're threatened with an economic calamity of tremendous proportions, and the old business-as-usual treatment can't save us. Together, we must chart a different course. We must increase productivity. That means making it possible for industry to modernize and make use of the technology which we ourselves invented. That means putting Americans back to work, and that means, above all, bringing government spending back within government revenues, which is the only way, together with increased productivity, that we can reduce and, yes, eliminate inflation.
The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
Hello and welcome to Inform America. I'm your host, Rich Merritt. Co-hosting today is Pat Murphy. Welcome back, Pat. It's been a long time. I said 2 weeks ago I was throwing in the towel, and I thought I was, but the fact of the matter is people need to hear the truth, and they need to hear it from a lot of different people. So me staying silent is not going to help matters. Evil will triumph when men of good conscience stand by and do nothing. I'm not going to be one of those people. And I know Pat isn't either. I'll speak for him. Very quickly, check out the Boston Broadside newspaper. Go to the nationallibertyalliance.org and help them out. And if you've got any interest in Stand Your Ground, my book, you can get it on Amazon, or you can go to the email address on the screen. And then, starting the show, but very quickly, I just wanted to say that 2,000 years ago, Christ threw the money changers out of the temple. They're still at it today, 2,000 years later. And as you can see by the thing I put up here, Federal Reserve note is pure evil. And we'll get into some of that and express why. But I wanted to say that about 250 years ago, about 1750, I guess it was, give or take, there was a guy named Amschel Mayer Bauer. And he had 5 sons. He sent them out all over Europe to take over banking, basically. I don't know if that was his goal back then, but that's what he did. He also changed his name to Rothschild back then because he hung a silver eagle over a red shield. And I guess translated in German, that's what it means, Rothschild. So we sent them out over Europe, conquered the banking in Europe. About 100 years ago, Federal Reserve Act, they got their talons in the American banking system, and now it's 2020. And in my humble opinion, they're attempting to take down the world. They basically control the money on the planet. And when I hear people say, oh, Jeff Bezos is the richest man alive, you have no clue. He's a pauper compared to the Rothschilds. There were trillions, not billions, trillions with a T. They own everything. And that's why what's happening is happening. And just very briefly, and I'll turn it over to you, Pat, but very briefly, if you think that either Biden or Trump, it doesn't really matter. I don't care who you are, Democrat, Republican. If you think anybody outside of bankers shut down 174 countries because of an invisible bug that nobody can see, it was the bankers. Make no mistake about it, it was the bankers who did it. And they're doing this, it's not over. There's more to come. But they're trying to take America down. They cut out the middle class, or they're attempting to do that, doing a good job too. But all the billionaire stores stayed open. Walmart, Home Depot, the box stores, all of them. You can figure out what it is. Anyway, I'll turn it over to you, Pat, and you can pretty much pick up wherever you'd like.
Okay, there's a lot going on, and a lot of these things are interrelated. But like you, Rich, I feel that I, for one, want to know, and I do know that I've stood up for what's right for a long, long time. And if this was your last day on earth when you passed the Great Divide, you want to make sure that you stood up to evil. You know, it's a very, very important thing. Mm-hmm. But we're in the middle of tremendous problems in the country, and they're coming from a multiplicity of angles. You mentioned the financial aspects with big banking and that. When you think about the founding of the country and you look back, you look at the American Revolution, we deal with things like the Stamp Act, the Writs of Assistance, all of these, the Quartering Act and things like that. But one of the keys to understand is that the American colonists back then, they had a good idea of how things operated economically and legally. You know, the two common books you'd find in almost any household were the Bible and Blackstone's commentaries on the law. So we're talking about intelligent people, and they understood when King George said the Bank of England, which had been around from about 1690, so it's around for a little more than 100 years before 1776, that Bank of England was going to take over the issuance of all script, all the paper money in the colony, and they were going to be paid interest. And those colonists realized that we're going to lose everything now because of this. They're aware of what it was. Now you're in the same situation right now. If you don't think so, pull up anything on Klaus Schwab at Davos and watch his speech on the Great Reset. You get this guy, big tall guy with a $1 zillion suit with a shaved head. He's an older gentleman and a heavy German accent. And he will tell you it's going to be a stakeholders system. They're going to redesign everything. So the stakeholders are, it's like Rich says, it's guys like Bezos. And the rest of us are going to be into a neo-feudal system. And he goes on to say how all the smaller businesses are going to be impacted. Well, what do you think happened in March after they had their meeting? Yeah. Is all of a sudden you got 100 some odd companies right across the board, countries are impacted by this, and their economies are almost virtually shut down. Every bit of it is an arbitrary decision by some of these people we have as mayors or on city councils. It's unbelievable the damage that they did.
Well, they also don't have any authority in law, and I defy anybody to come forward and show me where it is. They have no authority to shut down a business. They have no authority to shut down tens of thousands of businesses because there's an invisible bug out there waiting to get you. Now, it's been 9 months. I hope people have realized that we're not dropping like flies, and I don't believe we're going to. I mean, unless they start vaccinating us, that's a different story. Then we'll start dropping like flies.
It's a false flag. It's a false flag for a political effect so they can rearrange the economy and the stealings can be greater than ever before. And once again, it's elites versus the average guy. This is why Trump got elected. This is why Putin got elected in Russia, is that the average guy is sick of what's going on. You can see this conflict now between those that ran the system that want to maintain the status quo, and what Trump has done in pulling back the curtain and saying I have an alternate system. It's an industrial system on a fair playing field for everybody where we actually manufacture and create wealth versus finance capitalism that'll play these games and inflate an economy and then suddenly restrict the availability of capital, collapse things, and grab things for pennies on a dollar. You know, most of their trick is that they enjoy the power of doing these things.
Well, they're in a position to do it too. That's why I said Trump didn't, Biden, Trump, I don't care, they pick a name. They didn't shut down 174 countries on the planet. The bankers did. It's the only ones that could do it because they own everything. They control all the money in the world. All of it.
So we don't have a free market system? I thought we had a free market system in America.
Well, it's free if they give it to you.
Yeah.
But they don't give it to you.
Yeah. The American people have to study the economic history of the United States. It's very difficult to get.
Yeah.
And to go all the way from the American Revolution and all the way up through the War of 1812, which is an attempt to bankrupt the United States so that the Brits could get their banking interests controlling the future of the nation, then all the way up through the Civil War to the Organic Act of 1871 that created, that made the United States into a corporation.
Yeah, let me just say this, Pat, because I think it's a phenomenal video. It's a documentary by Bill Still, who was a presidential candidate. I don't know if he's still running or not. Very bright guy. This video is about 4 hours long. Take the time and watch it. It's called The Money Masters, and it's about the banking system and what we've morphed into today. And once you find out that, and it's all documented, you can check it out for yourself, that these people have started wars for the past 2 or 3 centuries. Started wars, bankers, okay, killed millions of people. No one's ever been brought to justice. However, this continues. They inflate and deflate the money. And if you take a look at this dollar, I'm going to use Pat as an example. I'm the bank and Pat's America. He says, Richie, I need $1. Can you print me that dollar? We'll say it's $1 billion, whatever. And I say, yeah, well, you pay 5% interest. I give him the dollar, and a year later I say, Pat, the note is due. You got to pay it back. So he gives me the dollar back, and I say, wait a minute, where's the interest? Well, I only printed $1 billion or $1 here. He can't pay me the interest because he's got no money. So the dollar just got deflated. Instead of the dollar that it was, now it's 95 cents. He owes me a nickel. So once he pays me the nickel, of course he's got to borrow more money to do that. Now the second time he borrows money, it goes down even more. That's constant deflation that's been happening for about 107 years. Deflating the dollar. The inflation's another part of it, but my point is simply that the system we have with money can't be fixed. It's a never-ending debt-based system. And that's all it does. It creates debt, nothing else.
But it's going to get better because they're going to go to a digital system now. If you watch Tony Blair out of England just recently, I think in the last few days, he's come out and said that you're going to have immunity passes. You're going to have immunity passes, and you're going to have a digital ID. So everything is going to be digital, and then it's going to be even worse than it is now for the average human being worldwide. It's a neo-feudal system being imposed on us with elites at the tippity top running everything, and bring in this whole system that they want to bring in Washington with this, former, ex-Black Panther communist Bobby Rush, Senate Bill 6666, whatever, to have contact tracers on top of people. I mean, you look at this stuff and it's just, how does it not make you shudder and think about all of the great totalitarian dictatorships of modern history? Think about it.
And I'll say this, Pat. I consider you a great, and I mean great, historian. So coming from you, it should wake people up. I mean that sincerely, because they're taking advantage of everything they can right now to bring us down and to tell you, and by the way, the CDC and the WHO, they're not governmental agencies. They're private corporations. Who the hell are they to tell us, close down your businesses, social distance, put a mask on, do this, do that? It's all been, I don't want to say proven, but a lot of it's coming out. that it's BS. It's a hoax. Whether COVID-19 is real or not real, I'm not even getting involved with that. But I have yet to find anybody who knows somebody with COVID-19. Haven't met a person yet.
Well, you look at the attacks. On food production now in the United States and closing down meat plants. You look at governors using terminology like strike teams to go out and go after the people that are harvesting, so that they run away, so that your harvest it simply rots in the field. They're doing things that were done in the 30s by Stalin in the Ukraine. And then if you look at, as I said, Klaus Schwab's video, anything on him where they bring up transhumanism. These guys, they're talking about inserting things into people's heads, reading their minds, reading their emotions, tracking people. It harkens all the way back to the turn of the century with Lenin talking to Pavlov, and Pavlov asking Lenin what he really wants. And Lenin explaining he wants a control on people. So Pavlov says, what you're talking about is creating human robots, aren't you? And he said, precisely. It's the same exact thing. There's a demonic element involved in all of this. You can see it. It's becoming more and more clear all the time. It's right out there in the open. It's right in your face.
Yeah. No, and I'm laughing, but it's really sad because these people, and Mark Zuckerberg went in front of Congress and said to Dr. Gold, she's out there talking about stuff that could endanger people's lives. Who the hell is Mark Zuckerberg? He doesn't have a medical degree. And he's questioning a doctor? And by the way, that doctor was fired, and I'm sure Zuckerberg had a lot to do with it. He's part of the system, the organized crime network that's on this planet. And why people listen to billionaires and not experts in the field is beyond me. It's beyond me. I don't even get it.
Well, they process people over a long period of time. I mean, it's like Alexander Solzhenitsyn says, you can be the smartest person in the world. If you're listening to the dinner propaganda day in and day out, year after year, it's going to have an adverse effect on you. They control all of the information. The Internet, for a while, we were getting the information we wanted, and people began to wake up. They were waking up in all of these countries everywhere. You think about the yellow vests in France. You think about what was going on in Catalan in Spain. You think about the stuff you saw in Germany, and then all of a sudden you had this COVID thing. It's because the natives were too restless. They were becoming too well informed, and those people that run that system, that want to maintain that system, they felt it was jeopardized, so they accelerated the whole system. Now they know from having these people wear these masks. I mean, you stop in any parking lot and you watch what you used to think was a male population. Guys, they would actually have a scrotum with something in it. They're like that ad where they say, "What's in your wallet?" Well, there's nothing in their wallet, and they put these masks on. It's like Night of the Living Political Dead, and just walk into these stores like zombies. I mean, if they were told to wear a diaper, half of them would. If they were told to send a sample to the governor so at the end of the week so he could poke it with a stick to see if it was alive, they'd do the same thing. It's frightening because
nobody questions any authority. And it's the point I want to make. The authority that our public servants have is given to them by we the people. And if we the people, instead of having these people as public servants, are going to allow them to be our public masters, we're screwed. We're in a lot of trouble. But the one thing I wanted to say is this. They are your public servants. Why are you saying, okay, you want me to shut down my restaurant, and I will? Why do you do that? Now, I understand that this COVID thing took us all by surprise. I didn't know anything about it. I've certainly studied it for the last 8 or 9 months. But regardless of that, things should have opened up and people should have said, hey, this is crazy. If people want to wear a mask in my restaurant, wear a mask. If you don't. But I'm not going to listen to a governor who, by the way, is supposed to run the affairs of government. That's why we elect people to public office, to run affairs of the public affairs in government. That's what they're supposed to do, not rule over us. But if you want to let them rule over you, then put your tail between your legs and keep doing what you're doing.
That's what you got. You get them all over here from New York now running this way. I look at them. They don't have fins or gills and tell them you can only go so far. You're going to run into water where they go north, south, east, or west. You got to stand up at some point. The same with California. As people vacate the state, but 700,000 people leaving in a year because these misanthropes are so corrupt, and they have made life unlivable in these places. They're torturing these kids.
Yeah.
You go to England, it's even worse. The kids are told you put the mask on, you don't talk to anybody, you don't eat with anybody, and if you move your head sideways, you're going to be expelled. What guy in his right mind would put up with this stuff? And they're doing the same thing here on something that's like, it might as well be out of the Salem witch trials. It's so insane. I blame the teachers, I'll tell you that. There's no question.
Yeah.
You participated. We go back and look at Common Core, which was an intellectual, it was a moral and ethical, a psychological assault on these children, was horrific, was illegal on at least three counts, where the government cannot set up a hive think for the entire nation. And what did they do? The majority said, I really don't like it, but I'm going to do it. And you have kids coming home and they're blowing lunch at night because they're being told 2 and 2 is 8. If the group says 2 and 2 is 8, that's what the truth is at that moment. And if you say 2 and 2 is 4, you're wrong. They rationalize the irrational. It's like Ivan Bunin said about the Russian Revolution. These people are rationalizing the irrational. They did it with Common Core, and now it's moved to the next stage where physically these kids are literally being made to be uncomfortable, they're harming their health, and these guys are going along with it. The parents should march in there and say, you know what, put the desk together, take the mask off right now. The principal doesn't like it, then get your arse out of here. You're not teaching my kid. We're done. You need to stand up. You need to become men in your own country. It's unbelievable. I can't believe it.
No, I'm the same way, Pat. I'm not going to get into the school per se, but I will say this about the school. The teachers and the police, there's two groups of people, their attitude, well, I need the job. Well, I got to protect my pension. Right here, this useless piece of paper, okay, that isn't backed by gold or silver anymore, but people worship it. Instead of worshiping God, we're worshiping the dollar, the almighty dollar, okay? And that's what's taken us down. One of the things that's taken us down.
You're taking us down worldwide. If you look at Australia and you look at the people being beaten up, you look at a pregnant woman in her house being handcuffed in front of her husband. I can't say a lot for the husband, I'll tell you, because she wanted to have a meeting to protest all of these lockdowns. And she actually said, you know, you can wear your mask, we can stay 6 feet away, whatever the stupid, idiotic rules are. And they come in and strong arm her, and she's pregnant. And they send a message to people that you guys are no longer men in your own country. I can't believe it. It's Australia. It's Australia.
Well, they gave up their guns a long time ago, and that's what is happening to them. It should be a good example for America. And I've always touted this, by the way, so I want to be very clear about it. I'm not advocating anybody lift a gun. Lifting a gun to anybody is the last resort to protect your life or your family's life. I'm not advocating that. But you can stand like a man, and you could say, that's it. I ain't putting up with this anymore, because it's getting bad. These different cities all around the place. Kenosha, Wisconsin, was it? That was the last one, I think. I mean, and it's being orchestrated by the deep state, the banks. I don't call them what you will. George Soros is part of the deep state or the banking system because he's got so many billions of dollars. What's spending millions to get these anarchists to trash, burn buildings, beat people up, shoot them, kill them? There's no justice. But if you wake up, there's justice. Because it's your country, it's your government, it's your money. Everything deals with you. You have to stand. No one's going to come and save you. I hate to tell you that. No one's going to come. We can come together as people and say, that's it, enough is enough.
You're watching a globalist attempt to solidify its power across the world using communist tactics. That's to destroy the family, destroy police forces, destroy the currency in the nation, sequester out patriotic elements within the military, a classic methodology that had been used by elites that finance these movements, by the way, which they have all the way from the Russian Revolution up to what we had in the 60s, where Jerry Rubin says, yeah, Wall Street financed us. Who do you think financed us? You're watching the same thing now. But this one now, with a digital currency and this tracking system, especially this tracking system, they're pitting people against people. Most black people want to live their lives like anybody else, have a decent home, decent family, good family life, give their kids their own religious instruction. They don't want any part of this. But you watch this media that's totally controlled. It's pitting people against people in an attempt to start a civil conflict, to change the entire order. and to go after the police so that you have this huge chaotic situation so that they can bring in the system that they want. That's what's going on. And they accelerated it. And they were very happy with what they had with you guys wearing the masks. It's like Solzhenitsyn says, you know, don't live by the lie. You're living by the lie. Where he says throw off the bloody rag, you throw off that bloody rag of communism. Don't wear that mask. It's unbelievable.
No, I know, and it's I don't even know where to begin, because you try to tell people and they think you're crazy. You're the conspiracy nut. The country is falling apart around us. It's coming down around our ankles. The banks, the international banking community headed by the Rothschilds, in my estimation, is public enemy number one. I'm saying that. They control the organized crime ring that's operating, and I'm talking about the lamestream media, which also owns Hollywood, by the way, so they put out all the garbage that we watch. They own the internet. And if you start asking yourself, why are people like Mike Bloomberg, Zuckerberg, Soros, all of these people who are Jewish get the money that the Rothschilds give? And by the way, the Rothschilds are also Jewish, in case you didn't know that. Bauer, German Jews. My point is simply this, and I'm not, by the way, I'm going to be really clear about this. I got Jewish people in my family. I'm not saying that everybody is bad, but what I am saying is this: there are Jewish people out there who are in organized crime, and for some reason, like Frank Lowy and Larry Silverstein, who got over $5 billion when the World Trade Centers came down, okay, in an insurance settlement that was 6 weeks old. 6 weeks. It's contestable for 2 years. But they got paid right off the bat. No questions asked. That's a conspiracy thing. Anyway, Pat, if you want to take it from there, you got about a minute left.
No, I agree with you. With the Jewish people are central. Their intellectual contributions to Western civilization are central to everything. The idea that there's justice at the end of history, it has meaning. There's a moral code to be followed. The idea that you have one day out of the week that you reflect on creation. And the moral law, those are Jewish concepts, and they are the most powerful concepts in history, and they're an enormous positive. So, you know, like I say, I've had great Jewish friends and doctors. Look at this guy now that's exposing all this. His name, he's Kaufman. He's a Jewish guy, and he's showing you this is what's going on with the vaccines, and it's cost him his career, and he's had great courage. So we have to be careful with a lot of that stuff, to be objective and to be on the mark with it. You know, so
there's a lot of Andrew Kaufman, Judy Mikovits, Rashad Buttar. There's quite a few doctors coming out speaking out about this whole thing. Anyway, I'm glad to be back, and I know I speak for Pat when he says he is, because we're here trying to bring the truth to the people. Things are getting serious, and I will tell people this: buy food. Don't go out and load up shopping carts. Buy a little extra food, because if you don't tell people this, they'll be knocking on your door because they're hungry and you won't like it. So everybody, buy a little bit of extra food. Share with one another, though.
The reality is that people need something, local organizations like they had in the period of the American Revolution, like the committees of correspondence, to sit down with each other, know each other, and get the vital information they need to be able to maintain a stable society. That's not what's happening. We are very much divided. When you look at things like the Russian Revolution, and you have people that want to put this country into a similar type situation, if you asked Lenin why he was successful, he would say, number one, it was the control of information, propaganda, and we can see it's very hard to get information. Number two, it would be the disorganization of anybody that opposed him, and we are very disorganized. And number three, he used the word timidity, but the fact of the matter is it's cowardice. You see these people unwilling to stand up, even to the point of being forced to be uncomfortable in wearing a mask. I mean, I went to the beach last week. This guy's got little kids like this, and they're coming out and they got these masks on in the heat. And I'm saying, this makes no sense at all. No sense.
It's bizarre. Anyway, we're out of time, so please watch this video and share it. Thank you for watching. I'm glad to be back.